So, Rings of Power is back.
Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
Is it any different from Season 1? The laughably acted, poorly implemented, willfully destructive insult to everything J.R.R. Tolkien worked on in what is now one of the most revered book series of all time? Has the ultra-diverse cast and mostly new, all-female directing team been able to breathe new life into this moribund show and pull it back from the abyssal money pit it enthusiastically dove into in the first season? The short answer is, hell no.
Pain must be something you enjoy.
If anything, Season 2 is even more disrespectful to Tolkien's legacy than the first go-around. If you were hoping for an improvement in anything really, you're going to be sorely disappointed. So far, it's more of the same, with even more standing around and talking about feelings, even more holes in logic, even more painfully drawn-out exposition, and yes, even more frustrating character behaviors. Take Galadriel's insistence on wearing the elven ring tainted by Sauron.
Galadriel. No.
Even after Elrond warns her about that very fact, going so far as to do a fugitive-style escape down a waterfall to keep the rings out of the other's hands, and Galadriel being fully aware of that fact herself. She insists on wearing it because of some unknown potential. Oh, and it brought the elven tree back to life, so to hell with caution. Or how about Adar's hunt for Sauron when he's standing right in front of him? It feels unnecessary and drawn out. Adar even goes so far as to recruit a hill troll to help hunt Sauron down, and it all feels so needless and tedious. He was already there in front of you, but you let him go because he told you he could lead you to Sauron, and Adar has no clue that he's talking to Sauron, even though he killed Sauron in the flashback at the beginning, and what are we doing here? It's like the showrunners needed to pad out the runtime or something. Or what about Halbrand Sauron easily tricking Celebrimbor after Galadriel specifically told him not to treat with him?
And should he ever, none of us are to treat with him again.
And believe me, you get tired of hearing that term. Like the writers couldn't think of another word like associate, consort, deal with, negotiate, or whatever have you.
I can treat with you no longer. So I promised Lady Galadriel before she left that I would never treat with him again.
Or is there someone else we should be treating with?
Not only does Sauron trick Celebrimbor into letting him into Eregion by simply saying that Galadriel changed her mind, don't worry about it. He quickly convinces Celebrimbor into believing he's a messenger from the Valar sent to help the elves, and that Galadriel kicked him out when she learned the truth, as if that makes any sense. And Celebrimbor just buys it. I guess I shouldn't be surprised, because this is the Master Smith who didn't know about alloys after all.
Now, if that's true, we've been doing it all inside out.
But this manipulation continues, and I'm not sure who comes off worse here. Celebrimbor for naively believing everything Sauron says, or Sauron for his utterly unconvincing deception? Lord of gifts indeed. There is nothing masterful going on here. Sauron in Anatar form is like that one friend you have who's a compulsive liar whose tall tales are completely ridiculous, but you don't call him out on it because his crazy stories of bar fights and wild convenience store encounters are so entertaining. Sadly, Sauron's in no way as entertaining or endearing as a buddy like that. The most frustrating part, though, is that characters spend far too much time standing around talking about what happened, what might happen, what to do about what might happen, how they feel about what happened, how they feel about what might happen, and so on. It's too many feelings and not enough action. Stop talking about it and do it. This results in a show that drags on while you're sitting there bored, subjected to bland dialogue and uninspired acting, just waiting for something interesting to happen. And it never really does.
Come on!
Well, let's summarize briefly. Episode 1 opens with a flashback and a much more appropriate-looking Sauron than the Halbrand version we're getting now. That guy could have pulled off a more convincing Lord of Gifts than this dude, that's for sure. Sauron's betrayed by Adar, turns into venom, and I knew that scene looked familiar. He kills someone and takes on the form of Halbrand for some reason, then meets up with Galadriel. Jump to present. In possibly the worst casting choice ever, Morfydd Clark continues to play Galadriel like a petulant child, despite being around 5,000 years old at this point in the lore. She's confronted about Halbrand and admits that he's Sauron.
Could you?
I agree with Elrond. Gil-galad wants to stop the fading, the twilight of the elves, by using the 3 rings forged last season, despite Sauron's obvious involvement. Elrond, the only one with any sense, jumps off a waterfall with the rings in an attempt to drum up some cheap drama. It's all for naught though, because the rings are soon returned and Galadriel's the first to put one on, caution be damned, and the elves' tree is saved. Not long after, Galadriel states the obvious and says Sauron doesn't need armies, he needs rings.
And for that he needs not armies, but rings.
While they're wearing the same fucking rings in question. But they don't take them off. The elves are well aware of the danger the rings pose, but continue to wear them. Who wrote this crap? Sauron, after escaping from Adar, tricks Celebrimbor into letting him forge more rings, appearing as Anatar, Lord of Gifts, and completely gobsmacking the Mastersmith. Meanwhile, Galadriel and Elrond plan an expedition to Eregion to track Sauron down, because all the letters they've sent to Celebrimbor to warn him about Sauron's identity have gone unanswered. Moving on, the dwarves lose their sun shafts because of tremors from Mount Doom, and are convinced by Elrond and Anatar Sauron to trade Mithril for rings of power to heal their mountain. It's all very obnoxious. The new ideas and characters the writers insert are annoying. Disa just lectures the king because women know best.
If that's an apology, I hear, King, try saying it to my husband.
Then Disa lectures Durin.
I said don't.
Climb off your high peak and apologise.
This is not an endearing character. Estrid, a new character who runs into Isildur, is another annoyance.
Here, let me pull it out.
No, don't! You're meant to leave it in.
Was I?
Yes, whenever you're stabbed, you're meant to leave it in.
I've never been stabbed before.
Though there may be hope for her because she seems to be a plant from Adar. And all of this is told in slow-moving scenes rife with lame proverbs and metaphors in an attempt to copy the much better writers that have gone before. It's the same poor writing from the last season. Nothing's changed.
Judge the work, and leave judgment concerning those who wrought it to the judge who sees all things.
Judge the art, not the artist. This is rich coming from Hollywood writers who probably jumped onto X right after writing this line to cancel a few people they disagree with, or attack the fans who don't like the show because it sucks, but are labeled racist and targeted in hack journo hit pieces, all in defense of a billion-dollar corporate-backed perversion of one of the greatest works of art in modern history. Anyway, we're introduced to a dark wizard, played by the wonderful Kieran Hines. It too, Caesar?
Stop your grizzling, you old woman.
You should have held out for the Peter Jackson production. He's holed up in Western Ruin, where we hear Middle Eastern style music while panning across some ancient Middle Eastern looking structures in a very sandy area, but are treated to yet another diverse group of humans, so I can't place any group identity with them. Who knows? They're just another multicultural group of baddies, complete with It turns out they're looking for not Gandalf, for some reason. But more importantly, the wizard utters a word that will forever send shivers down my spine. I'll never be the same again. Then we have Nori and Poppy wandering about a desert with not Gandalf looking for stars while having visions about a staff that they call a Gand.
Without a Gand. Shall we find a Gand? There's plenty sticks all over the place.
Just in case you didn't get the connection. Anytime the halflings are on screen, I just want to check out. It's all a pointless exercise. We know it's Gandalf and we don't care about this stupid quest or these female Frodo and Sam stand-ins. Just get it over with. Over in Numenor, people are mad at Queen Regent Muriel and the recent deaths of their people. Pharazôn seems to have gained the upper hand after Muriel admits to owning the Palantir, and a giant eagle shows up to give him an endorsement. We're left with a dramatic scene of rings being forged, which is far less exciting than it should be, because we already know where all of this is leading. There are so many problems with this season so far, even beyond my opening complaints. Sauron is supposed to be a master manipulator, but we don't really believe it because his deceptions feel so unconvincing. All of the things we know about Lord of the Rings are being shoehorned into this series, but it all feels so false. Like giant eagles, palantirs, ents. And even an explanation about moon letters. Why do modern writers feel the need to go back and explain things that don't need to be explained, thereby removing any kind of mystery to it? Come to think of it, that's all this show is. dragging the events of Middle-earth's hallowed past into the shallow pond we call modernity, and watering them down in a substandard retelling of a legendary scholar's meticulously crafted pseudo-mythology that was a labor of love born from the trenches of World War I and developed over decades of painstaking research and inspired imagination. And don't even get me started on the writer's attempts to humanize orcs. It's as pathetic and misguided as it looks, and just one more attempt to insert modern values into timeless stories with very definite moral values. Try to at least make an attempt to understand what the source material is saying before trying to put your own spin on it. But I suppose that would be too much to ask these days. We're 3 episodes in, and I'm pretty much finished. It's more of what we got in Season 1, and it's mainly boring and unfun, which is maybe the worst crime of all. The short bursts of action we do get, while competently choreographed and shot for the most part, feel exactly like what they are. Small distractions to break up the monotony of a show that's been badly mishandled by creators who can't see beyond their little bubble. Their judgment is totally clouded by their self-righteous assuredness that they're fixing Tolkien's stories and telling them the proper way. And this is what we're left with, a bland and uninspired show, devoid of the heart that made the original books and movie adaptations so good. What an incredible return on investment.
What a piece of junk!